I'm Sky.
I'm Finn.
I'm Delaney.
I'm Harrison.
And we are
And we're
And we are
And we're
Blue Crew Broadcast.
okay. Hello, Braves. Welcome back to the Blue Crew Podcast. It's your host, Finn McBride.
And Delaney Degner.
And today we'll be discussing relaxing tips, finals, and stress management with a special guest in the form of our high school counselor, Ms. Carbone.
All right, we have a couple announcements. Speaking of finals, they start next week, but with some good news, winter break starts a week from today on the 18th. Senior Day is Thursday the 17th, which includes textbook exchange, material pickup, and senior wear ordering. So with that, we're going to start the discussion on stress management and tips for finals week. So, Finn, a first question would be, how has your finals prep changed each year with finals?
Well, trying to think back to freshman year, I feel like the very most important thing was kind of it was good incentive when some teachers would allow us to have index cards on the test. I remember, I think it was my math teacher that year, only let us have them for the test because he thought it was a good way to make sure it's a good way to review, to remember everything that you can cumulatively have learned and to put it into one place, because otherwise it might go unnoticed, because it really is a substantial amount of time. Well, this year is sort of different, thinking back to 5 months ago, which sometimes feels like 5 minutes ago. The whole concept of time is lost, but freshman year, I remember it's a really long way to go, as are most years. But yeah, index cards were cool. Sophomore year, chemistry was a big one. I actually couldn't use it on the final, but I did end up just going through my notes, just remembering everything, and just overall balancing and prioritizing which finals I needed to study first and prioritize. And then just understanding what you're being tested on. I think talking to your teachers every year, no matter what grade you're in, and just having a good idea of what you're stepping into, that's the first thing to being prepared. That's the most important thing. How about you?
I definitely see a mirrored effect during freshman and senior year and sophomore and junior year for different reasons. But freshman year, I didn't really prep that much because I didn't know what to expect. So I just kind of went into it like I was like, okay, I'll look over my notes, I'll guess a little bit, and then I just kind of went into it. And I'm seeing the same thing with senior year. That's probably how I'll prep for finals, just kind of brief over my notes and then just take it. Because I'm honestly it's not that I don't care anymore. It's just I've put a lot less stress on myself, even though if I don't get the outcome I want, I still put stress on myself. But I definitely see that mirrored. And then with sophomore and junior year, I took it a lot seriously. So I think I studied probably a good 4 or 5 hours before finals, sophomore and junior year. And just because I was scared, because people always tell you oh, those are the 2 most important years that college would look at and stuff like that. And math was really hard, so I studied a lot for that in those years. But yeah, this year I'm not that worried, especially because with stats, we're not doing a cumulative final. We're just a regular test. But I think it's definitely important to study, but also limit how much time you're putting into it, because you're just going to overstress if you put that much time into it. But don't put a little bit, because you're going to fail, obviously. Well, but yeah, you have to find a good balance, I guess, is what I'm saying. So yeah.
Yeah, and that ties into just I think we're kind of fortunate, at least for this year. I hope and I know that a lot of teachers on this campus are really reasonable in understanding, and hopefully your finals aren't as stressful. And I hope that it's just overall testing you on what you've learned this year. And I think this leads into our next discussion about stress management. How have you balanced, instead of cramming the night before, or just easing the pressures of finals, and overall just being a student? What are your best tips for managing stress?
Well, this year, most definitely, I've dealt with my procrastination a lot better. So when I'm given assignment, I think that has come to part with the block schedule, like only having 3 classes a day, even though it's a more substantial amount of work, it kind of helps me divide it up a little bit better. So I usually do the assignments the day they're due and like try to get it done by midnight by that day. So I think that really, really helped with my procrastination because I can kind of like get it off my plate for a little bit. And I think with finals, that's really going to help me because doing those assignments on time and kind of like keeping track has also led me to better study patterns. And so I think that's what I can implement with finals week. And then more directly with like dealing with stress management, I've learned to control my breathing a lot better. So I'll kind of like stop and take a couple breaths and just kind of like get in the right headspace before I overstress myself and stuff like that. So I think those are my two main improvements, I guess I'd say, of this year. What about you?
Um, you know, I think it's good for me to be honest when I say this, but I haven't been doing as well as I have the past few years, which I think that's important to address because not only is this like senior year, but it's like just the state of the world that we're in, you know.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's hard to really focus and like hone in on like every class. And you know, for myself, like just when everything can be daunting and when I am stressed, I think it's really important to just like prioritize like a balance of the things that make you feel good and just like acknowledging like some of the more tedious things. And again, it's emphasis on the balance because you don't want too much of either. Because for the past few years, there have been certain times in my life where like I really like would not give myself free time, just like getting through each week, making sure like I have everything done and kind of like burning myself out. So when the time came, I didn't perform as well like as I would have. And even in itself, you know, just looking for things to be less stressful is another factor of stress. It's just it takes a lot of like planning and prioritizing and just like being aware of everything going on, you know.
Mhm.
So you know, this might be somewhat of an unconventional thing, but the route that I've taken this year is kind of just to live in the moment. And, you know, I'm pretty proud of the fact that like I haven't really turned in late assignments now. There's a few that are an exception,
Yeah.
but I just, yeah, it's with teachers being really reasonable. I think just having them being understanding and all that's a good like that's what makes it successful, you know.
Mhm.
But yeah, for me it's just been good to live in the moment, you know. Like sometimes like if you're listening to music in the background, you like really get into the song and like maybe you have to like reread the problem and just like keep working through it. And as long as you're doing things on time, I think that's the most important thing. But just giving yourself a little bit of leeway, it goes a long way.
Yeah, I agree. My first 3 years of high school, I grinded like every single day. I had no free time whatsoever. And I think I kind of talked about this before, but like the pandemic, although it's like atrocious in reality, it's kind of a blessing in disguise because I've been given
Definitely.
free time. Like due to all my activities sadly being canceled, I have been able to like find time for myself, like get back into my love of reading again, like finding new music artists. I think that's really, really important. And that's probably one of the reasons that I haven't really procrastinated that much is because I have nothing else to do. Like maybe
Yeah.
my homework. So I think that really, really helped. But yeah, if I could go back and tell myself like my pre-senior year person now, I would tell myself to just kind of like stop and like live in the moment, like you were saying a little bit more. Because not, I don't regret grinding all the time. I just really wish I had taken a lot more time for myself and kind of did the things that I loved. And I wish a pandemic wouldn't have led me to that.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, you and I have taken like different paths as we just shared. And I think to like anyone listening, it's important to realize that like you need to accommodate to yourself, you know. It's important to acknowledge things that you could have done better, but just really don't regret them, like you've only like just think about how young you are and just acknowledge the few like how little mistakes you have made, and like while some may be more severe than others, it's just important to like reflect, not to hold on to the past for too long and just be like, oh, I should have done this, but just remain hopeful and don't overwhelm yourself for the future, just keep at it, just yeah, just
Yeah.
be aware.
Speaking of overwhelming, a question from our target audience has been how to not feel overwhelmed. So, if you want to answer that real quick and then I can jump on.
Yeah. Again, um sometimes you have to just sit back and collect your thoughts, and we do this live. I am a jazz musician who improvs. I was a member of the improv troupe, and it's kind of hard to like make something up on the spot, but before you do it, you just got to take a deep breath. And I feel like that's kind of the simplest thing to do. Just acknowledge where you are, where you're in the moment, where you have time to really just acknowledge how much time you have. And sometimes that might suck because you might only have like 5 minutes left, but just, yeah, just be aware. I've said that a lot, but how about you?
I think the thing that gets me a lot is like anticipation. So like I'll think and think and think, be like, oh, this is gonna stress me out so hard. Like this is gonna be so hard. Like I think my overthinking is worse than the actual thing. And I think that's a big problem that a lot of people face. And basically how to not do it, how to counteract it is probably just kind of like break it down. So if it's a big project, break it down in steps and like divide your time. That's another thing that I've tried to do. I'm not that successful because I'll probably just do it on the last day.
Yeah.
Like if you have a week, like I would do one step a day, and I think that really helped in not making me overwhelmed. And I think I know it sounds dumb, but stop overthinking. That's like one of the big things everyone tells you, but it really, really does help with not being overwhelmed. So I think that's probably my main piece of advice.
Definitely. And we're recording this in the middle of our week before finals, and when this is aired on Friday, you still have the rest of Friday. You have Saturday, Sunday, and I need to teach myself the schedule again. But just you still have time, and you could have done things in the past, but just know that that was then. This is now. You still have time to study for your finals and get everything in on time. It's just know when to start and make a plan.
And one of the main components of like a negative mindset is punishing yourself for taking free time. A lot of people do this, so they'll like stop homework and go on TikTok for like 20 minutes or whatever, and they say like they get mad at themselves for not doing their homework and kind of like punish themselves for not being on it all the time. But you don't have to be. Like you can take that 20 minutes and just like take a break. If you think in your body and mental state needs a break, like take it. Like there's nothing more important than your personal health, and like an hour of homework isn't going to deteriorate that if you want to take that break. So that's
Yeah,
a advice.
you bring up a good study method that a lot of my friends use and that I've used from time to time. But allotting certain times and establishing breaks, like if you start a big assignment at like 5 o'clock, you can do read from 5 to 5:15, and then take a break from 5:15 to 5:20. Then it's like 20 minutes of homework, then 5 minutes of leisure, 20 minutes. And it's a good system. And again, it prioritizes like balance, just like little gaps to get through your day, get through the tough time.
All right, so a more lighthearted question. What is your outfit for finals week?
Okay, so this goes back to one of our earlier episodes when I brought that up, that I had like lucky flannels. And I'm trying to think. Like I remember my freshman year I had a green one, and I honestly don't remember anything else after that. But it's either gonna be my favorite red hoodie and my favorite red pair of pajama pants, or depending on the teacher, it might just be the Mandalorian, man. They might just see a blank screen.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have really bad bedhead, and that's the only thing I can like get to show. But it's superstitions. I just know I'm gonna have a cup of Joe like by my side. Maybe music and no, not music, but music's good for studying. Like certain albums. But yeah, whatever rituals, whatever traditions you have to put on any sort of luck you think you might need, anything to like give yourself a clear state of mind to find comfort and just to relax. Like it's not the end of the world if you don't do as good on this. Of course it does have meaning, but just remember that balance of how much you need to give and make sure it's not taking too much out of you. And if no matter what, if it is too late, there's always next semester. And that's kind of cliche, but we're only halfway through this year and there's still so much time to really get on the right track. And I hope that the right resources are provided for whatever steps are in your way, even if it's wearing a lucky flannel. Yeah.
Like, for this semester, kind of going back to what you said, like we always have next semester, a lot of kids are worried about like college and stuff and how it'll look on their transcript. But one thing is that I've noticed throughout the college application process is that they have a lot of options that if you tended to reflect poorly upon yourself on your transcript, saying like a semester or a year or something like that, they give you multiple opportunities to kind of explain it. And what they love is honesty. So if you're honest with them, like, hey, like, I know it sounds cliche, but the pandemic just really hit me hard this semester and I was struggling with this, and this, or maybe you have like a mental health barrier. If you just explain that within your application, then they're going to appreciate the honesty and hopefully you reflected better upon yourself in a different portion, whether it's your extracurricular activities or maybe the next semester you brought your grades up significantly. I think it's just really important to be honest with yourself and with other people and not to stress about the little things, especially like that if you can't control it after your final grades. Um, yeah, and then I have lucky socks. That's like the only thing that I wear is I have like these coffee socks that I've worn I think the past 3 years. I don't know if I did freshman year, but definitely sophomore and junior year I wore those socks and now hopefully dig them up and wear them again. So that's my little superstitions for finals. But the main thing is be comfortable. Like you're gonna stress over everything else, or you don't want to stress over your outfit basically or what you're wearing. Like that's the least of your problems. So just like throw on like pajama pants, a sweatshirt, whatever you want to make yourself comfortable is ideal.
Yeah. In just about a minute, we're gonna have our guest speaker join us. So, right before that, Delaney, would you like?
All right, hey guys, we're back and we have a very special guest, Miss Carbone, who is an Altaloma High School counselor here with us today. She specializes in mental health and stress management along with the counselor duties, so we're very lucky to have her here. We're going to start off with a couple questions and at the end she's going to have some questions for us if she wants.
Yes. Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here. It's a pleasure to get to speak with you.
Thank you. All right. So Finn is going to start us off with our first question, and then it's going to alternate between us.
Okay, Ms. Carbone, thank you so much for being here. This first question is kind of about like, what's your day-to-day routine? Like, can you walk us through what it's like being a counselor, like every day?
Yeah, no, I'm glad you asked. I think, even pre-COVID, the day of a counselor is so varied. And that's one thing I like best about being a counselor is no 2 days are the same. But I would say even in these unique circumstances of COVID, that's even more true. And so we're just finding ways to do things from a distance. Typically my day involves a lot of communication and communication from distance, emails, meetings, Zoom meetings with students. We're doing the same things that we've always done even before COVID. But I think like everybody else, we're finding the most appropriate, most efficient ways to do those things. I know I've had the opportunity to visit Avid classrooms. Today, I've Zoomed with students to talk about the college application process. Really, our goal, even in distance learning, is to support our students and staff. And like you guys, I feel like I'm staring at a screen. It's always a pleasure to actually see students like I see you on the screen right now. It's a pleasure to work with you guys because right now we don't get that like built-in time that teachers do with students. And so anytime we get some interaction with students, we're always really happy to do that.
Awesome, thank you. All right, our next question is meditation based. So, what is your best method of meditation you've either taught or done yourself?
Oh man, one that I've taught or one that I've done myself. Well, the people that know me best know that I'm really into yoga. I love yoga, breathing exercises, meditation exercises. But I think just just Mr. Kaler, just the other day we had a meeting, counselors with Mr. Kaler. And one thing he told us at the end of the meeting, because I think we're all feeling the stress. Adults are feeling the stress, students are feeling the stress. And one thing he told me is just breathe. But anytime that we can take a few minutes to focus on our breathing, slow down our breathing, meditation comes in many different forms. I think ways to just relax in general is what's helpful for people, students and adults alike. For some people, that's running, that's staying active. We know exercise is important. For some people, it's guided meditation practices. I don't know if you guys know, but our counseling website on Bitly, on our Bitly Altaloma counselors website, we actually have a mental health resources page that actually includes guided meditation videos. So if there are students that are interested in learning more about guided meditation and just general ways to reduce stress and anxiety, we really encourage our students to take a look at that website.
We'll be sure to include that when this episode airs. It seems like a great resource. And so this next question, it obviously pertains to distance learning. It's about what's the biggest challenge that you faced within this period of time, or the biggest challenge you've seen students face, like when you talk to them?
Let me think about that one. You know, when I really think about the full scope of what students deal with, even pre-COVID, I mean, grades, relationships, final exams. For those of you that are seniors yourselves, or for those of you that have friends that are seniors, I know a lot of them are talking about the stress of the college application process and how stressful that can be. And you throw in a worldwide pandemic on top of that, there's a lot of stress to go around for plenty of people. But I don't know that there's one single issue that I see the most, but I think that the hardest part is just this general sense of being overwhelmed. And, you know, I've spoken a lot with students and families, and I think generally just people are feeling overwhelmed. And I really try to work with students about focusing on the things that you can control. When we're overwhelmed, it feels like the world is like caving in on us. But when we really look at the things that we can control versus the things we can't, it's easier to come up with a game plan to really attack those things that are going to be worth our time and energy, because there's so much that can overwhelm us that we don't have control over. And I think it's really important to practice self-care. We've talked about meditation. Self-care comes in a lot of different ways. I encourage students to make sure you're checking in with yourself every day, to make sure that you're spending some time with building time into your day. I think that's so hard right now because we're so disconnected and we're at different places. But finding ways to connect with other people, checking in with yourself to make sure that you're creating time and space in your day. I know for me, I work from home on Mondays and Thursdays. Separating my work life from my like self-care and my family time, that's really hard to do because there's so much that overlaps. I imagine it's probably the same for students. Like, when does the school day end? I think it's important for students to create space to do schoolwork. Try to stay away from that space for your family time and your personal life. And I think that goes for the time we spend on school, but also building time in to take care of ourselves, whether it's exercise, whether it's laughing with friends, whether it's taking time to meditate. I believe in yoga. I just think all of those things, especially right now, are just so very important. And when we're feeling overwhelmed, the more self-care we do, even in times when we're not feeling overwhelmed, I think we're better prepared to handle those more stressful situations in those stressful times.
I completely agree. Our last question is
Yeah.
more of like a situational stress. So, what is your best tip for someone who has test anxiety with finals week coming up?
Yeah, I know. Test anxiety, that is very situational. And in the moment, I think that focusing in on what you can control and doing your preparation beforehand can help you deal with the test anxiety that you're going to feel as soon as the teacher says, oh, here's a test. But I think the principles still apply. Taking the slow breaths, the reassurance that you have done your pre-work to be able to approach this test, and taking those final deep breaths to clear your mind. I think when you're in a stressful situation, whether it's test anxiety or anything else, the more you can clear your mind, the better that you can approach that. And I think with anything, the hardest part is just starting. Like, once you start the test with that clear mind, you just have to get going. And I think that's something that takes practice.
That was a really well said, and yeah, yeah, that was very well said, and I'm really glad you had to share.
Thank you, Finn.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much for your insight. We really, really appreciate you having the time and ability to be on our podcast today. With that being said, do you have any questions for us? Want to pick our brains a little bit?
I do, of course I do. I wanted to check in to see how you guys are doing. A lot of what I've talked about today is what my perception, but I want to hear from you guys. Like, I imagine the COVID situation, the distance learning is super stressful, being disconnected, but I wanted to hear a little bit about your experience and some of the things that you feel stressed out about now.
Delaney, you want to take it first?
Sure. I think the majority is college applications, and not really the application itself, but probably just the outcome, the uncertainty of where we're going to get accepted, where we're going to end up going, being away from home for the first time in forever for most of us.
Yeah.
I'm not personally dealing with that last one as much. It's mainly my mom, who's just in the umbilical cord stretch a little too far with where I want to go. And so that's probably the root of my stress right now. And then also just a lot of family life. Always being home, it really puts it in your face a little bit more because you don't have that escape of 8 hours at school where you don't have to deal with it. So I think those are probably my two biggest stressors right now.
Yeah, I just read I didn't think of it, but I really read an interesting tip about, they were speaking more in like a professional life, but I think the same applies to a student life, just really the importance of having a space to do your work. I know I hit on that a little bit earlier, and stay away from that space the rest of the day. So that you can, even though you're in your home all day, you can kind of create different places so that you get that escape that you're talking about.
Yeah, so from my perception, I have that space too. It's the family computer, and as soon as I get off of it, I'm out of there. But yeah, it's good to be in my own room. But touching on what Delaney said, she brought up a good thing about like the family. You know, I have a unique thing going on where my little brother is a freshman at Alta Loma and my dad's a teacher at Alta Loma. So we all work from home, and when schedules conflict, my brother has a test at 8:30, but I have to play my saxophone for my jazz class. My dad is in the middle of it all teaching rhetorical analysis. You know, it can get really like daunting.
I think we're all claiming our own space in our homes as we work and do schoolwork from home. I relate to that too with my own family.
And I feel like above all, the most frightening or stressful thing is just the uncertainty of it all. Delaney brought it up well with like our experiences as seniors, but going back to my family, like my little brother, this is his first insight on high school other than, you know, like romanticized movies, but just like diving headfirst into this, like I can tell it's taken a toll on him. The same thing with my dad, you know, like he's never taught in an environment like this. So our household's a good representative of the diverse positions of Alta Loma.
Absolutely. I know Mr. Anderson, one of our counselors who you probably know, and many of those that are listening obviously know Mr. Anderson, one of our 9th and 10th grade counselors. He said something to me, and he said it a couple times, but he said, no matter what, this is temporary. And the longer this goes on, it feels like it's going to go on forever. But I think it's important to keep that in our mindset that as hard as things are and as hard as it is to remember what things were like pre-COVID, this eventually too will pass. And I know our 9th grade students, like you said, are just experiencing distance learning as their high school experience. And I know one thing about the Brave family is that we will get through this together. One thing that's so unique, I think, to our school is just how much of a family we are. And I know our staff loves our students and everyone's working hard. I know that this isn't a normal situation, but everyone's working hard to provide the best experience possible. And we're just really proud of our students. Proud of you guys for doing this amazing podcast. I think this is just awesome to be able to connect with students and families in this way.
Thank you so much. We appreciate the great feedback.
Yeah.
And we hope you know how thankful we are for you and all of the staff. It's really a great thing you guys are doing, and I could not be more proud of our school. I love the connectivity that we find throughout everything. It's a beautiful thing.
I agree. It's not what we're used to in the setting, but I just think we're just doing an awesome job with the circumstances we've been given. And we want to tell our students, please reach out anytime. We miss you on campus. We can't wait to the day that we can all be together in person again. And we do want to make sure that our students do know about our guidance website. We have a mental health calming room. We talked about like meditation, there's coloring activities. There's actually like a piano. I don't play the piano, but there's like a virtual piano that makes you feel like you're playing a piano to like reduce stress as you hear the notes. And there's also some important information about mental health resources and crisis text lines. And you're welcome to reach out to us anytime. But if any student needs any of those supports, especially during the break, when we're not available, we want to be able to point our students in that direction.
We're definitely going to put that link in the little bio so we can get more promotion to students out there. But thank you for enlightening us on that website.
Absolutely.
Is there anything else you want to touch on or any other questions you have for us?
No, I just really appreciate your time and I appreciate your hard work. And I just wanted to give a shout out to our Braves. We miss you and we love you guys. And thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, thank you so much for listening again, Braves. We hope you stay tuned for next week's episode. And I'm Delaney.
I'm Finn.
And stay brave, Alta Loma.
Bye, guys. Good luck.
Feel like a child.